I'm always talking about how anxiety is a perfectly natural human emotion that doesn't need to be resisted or feared, and how it's only framing our anxiety response as maladaptive and threatening that actually makes it feel so bad. But once we've accepted that feeling anxious is nothing to worry about, and as a result have stopped feeling anxious about anxiety, there's actually lots of things we can do to feel less anxious about the day-to-day stuff like work, relationships, health, money, life. In this video, I'm going to explain 3 things you can do to stop life's challenges from feeling quite so overwhelming and keep you on top of the day-to-day stuff. So let's do it. So a lot of the work I've done with clients over the last 15 years has been centered around what we call the second fear, the fear of feeling anxious. But of course, anxiety isn't the only thing we feel anxious about. Our anxiety journey probably started with feeling high amounts of concern for some aspect of our life. Maybe our career, our finances, our health, all that sort of stuff. It was only later we started to focus more on how anxious we were feeling. It was later that the thing we were most worried about became our own anxiety response. So I want this video to focus less on anxiety about anxiety and more on anxiety about life's challenges and our ability to cope with those challenges. I'm going to be giving you 3 simple ways of reducing anxiety and getting back in control of how you respond to challenges and how you feel about yourself in the process. So, starting at the beginning. Whenever a client comes to me and tells me that they're feeling overwhelmed, it's almost always because they're putting an excessive amount of focus on aspects of their life that are outside of their own direct control. And we all do this at times. We worry about what might happen at work tomorrow. We ruminate over what other people might think of us. We become overly concerned about the safety and well-being of those we care about if they're going through a difficult time. Whilst these things all feel like stuff that we should be concerned about because we're invested emotionally in what happens, the truth is there's little or nothing we can actually do to influence the outcome of any of these things. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, so trying to mentally prepare for every eventuality is inevitably futile and emotionally draining. We don't know if other people will approve of our actions in any given situation, and we certainly can't keep everybody happy at once, so worrying about it simply wastes time and energy and takes up valuable space in our mind. And whilst we'll never stop caring about our friends and family, everyone is ultimately on their own journey, and the amount of time we spend worrying about them doesn't actually solve any of their problems or contribute in any way to their happiness. But focusing on these things isn't just futile, it can actually be quite damaging. What you choose to put your conscious focus on will contribute hugely towards your understanding and experience of life. The simple truth is that the more we put our focus on the things that we can't control, the more we create this warped perspective on life that tells us we are entirely out of control of it. And of course, perceived lack of control threatens to increase our anxiety levels. The less control we believe we have, the more potentially dangerous that situation seems, and the more likely our mind will be to trigger fight or flight. The antidote to this response is to instead put our focus on the things we actually do have control of. And this is pretty much limited exclusively to our own choices and responses. If we choose to put our focus less on those things we have no control over and more on our own actions, then our perceived reality shifts and we get a different perspective on life. We get used to focusing on things that we have direct control of, and as a result, perceive agency in our choices. This in turn reduces anxiety, not just because it simplifies our mental process, but it also protects us from overwhelm and puts us back in control. You might not realize this, but when you're anxious about the upcoming challenge, you're not actually anxious about that thing. You're anxious about your potential ability to cope with it. One of the main reasons we feel excessive levels of anxiety is because we find ourselves in a place of low self-esteem. Our self-worth has taken a hit at some point, and perhaps we're struggling to change that. Or maybe we're not even attempting to change it because we've just mistakenly accepted this negative evaluation of ourselves as true. It's not always a simple process to put our finger on where this lack of self-worth came from, but low self-esteem inevitably leads to anxiety because when we look at the upcoming challenging situation, our self-image is telling us we're just not good enough to get through it. If we don't feel very good about ourselves, then we more than likely will feel anxious about our ability to deal with life's daily challenges. Now, as I say, it can be tricky to pinpoint the exact moment we started to feel less than worthy, but I can guarantee you that the reason that idea has endured is because you've been telling yourself that this is the truth for a long time now. Your inner monologue has been working on the version of reality that says you can't rather than the version that says you can. So one very simple way of boosting self-esteem is to deliberately treat yourself as someone you value and care about. We might have grown up with the people around us displaying an attitude that we're not worth it or we have little or no value. But remember, these opinions don't actually tell you anything objective or true about you as you are today. Someone else might have planted a seed of doubt in your mind about your own self-worth, but it's been you that's watered that seed over the years and turned it into something huge. But as soon as you cut off the supply of nourishment to that idea, it will quickly wither and die. And you do that by changing the way you talk to yourself about yourself. I'm not suggesting you do positive affirmations in the mirror every morning. I'm simply saying that whenever you hear yourself giving a negative appraisal of your worth, simply remind yourself that this point of view is tainted by years of negative self-talk and negative cognitive bias. You can also steer your mind in the opposite direction, simply by treating yourself differently. You might be used to sacrificing your own desire and goals to help others out with theirs, not really believing your dreams were worthy of pursuit. Instead of that, deliberately diarise time for your own self-care and the pursuit of your own happiness. Take the afternoon off, buy the frivolous, unnecessary item, say no when others are making unreasonable demands on your time, treat yourself like someone you value. The more we make self-care and self-kindness a regular thing, the more we encourage our mind to adopt that opinion naturally. Increasing our self-esteem will often be a matter of invalidating the attitude displayed by other people at certain times in our life. And we'll have times when the people around us don't value us. Just make sure that right now, you're not one of those people. Repairing your own self-image is ultimately the antidote to unnecessary anxiety and a vital step towards getting back in control of your own journey. As an almost direct follow-up to the last point, and in answer to anyone wondering how they can possibly treat themselves kindly when they don't think they deserve it, it's worth pointing out that you are doing better than you currently give yourself credit for. Yes, when you suffer high levels of anxiety for an extended period of time, to the point where our self-image becomes coloured with anxiety issues, to the point where it almost feels like anxiety defines us, it'd be easy to buy into that idea that we're not that great at dealing with life. But the truth is a very different story. I guarantee you've been through a lot of challenges in your life and achieved much more in the face of those challenges than you've probably taken the time to notice. Our own resilience is often the first thing we take for granted and the last thing we notice when we're struggling. However, the truth is you're pretty good at dealing with the unexpected and unpredictable because you've been doing it every day of your life. And maybe in recent times you've been doing that in the face of high levels of anxiety, which is not something that should be easily dismissed. Every challenge you've faced, you've overcome and reached the other side of. Yes, sometimes those challenges knocked you down, but you got back up, and no doubt you got up that little bit more experienced and that little bit more resilient. You got up stronger. So in the face of life's challenges, when anxiety seems to be becoming overwhelming, when you're pondering and scaring yourself with all the what ifs, always remember, you know the answer to that question. What if the bad thing happens? You will in some way get the other side of this. And you know that because you always have. Let me know if this video has helped in the comments below. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for weekly anxiety-related videos. In fact, why not check another one of my videos out right now by clicking right here. But that's it for this one. I'm Tim Box. Always remember, be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.